Often taking care of everyone and everything else other than ourselves, and that can really lead to a lot of anxiety and stress. The reason we feel overwhelmed apparently is because the moment we get a large list of things to do, the mind just starts focusing on fear. We start to panic sometimes. So with us this morning is Bonnie Mailey. She is a self-realization coach and author, and she's joining us once a month starting today to talk a little bit about how we can find that balance in our life. Thanks for being here this morning.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be here. I'm really excited about coming regularly.
And we talk about, balancing life. Easier said than done these days.
Yes, it is. Usually because we don't have the tools that we need in order to do that.
And talk about, what do we start with in this busy world? It's easy for many of us to find ourselves feeling just overwhelmed.
Yes.
How do you even deal with that feeling of overwhelm?
Well, first of all, a little understanding of why we feel overwhelmed, I think, really helps. When we have a big list of things, as you were saying, Tess, it's not the list that's causing us to feel that anxiety. It's how we think about the list that causes that feeling. And so what we need to do is recognize what we're thinking when we get the list, first and foremost.
Recognize it, okay? And
yes.
Then when we make that realization and recognize it, do you still follow that list, or are lists, overwhelming sometimes and you shouldn't even have one?
Well, but sometimes we have no choice, and the things that are on that list have to get done. Maybe we have a boss that's breathing down our neck, and yes, we do have to do those things. But what I found is when you understand some simple tools with regards to how you think of your list, you can actually change that feeling of being overwhelmed and then be more productive, get things done more easily, and get through the list peacefully rather than frantically.
And these are some of the things you touch upon in your book. What is happiness and where can I find some? Recognizing now that what we're afraid of when it comes to that list, how do we then achieve finding that balance and working with those tools as you were mentioning?
Well, and there are 4 basic concepts that I think are really important. First off, listen to your body. Every single thought that we have has a corresponding feeling in the body, and when we're overwhelmed, we're thinking thoughts like, I'll never get that done, or I have so much on my plate, this is impossible.
Guilty. I think we can all relate to that.
Yes, and those thoughts create an anxious feeling in the body. The anxious feeling is like an alarm. And the alarm is telling you to do a mental checkup. The same way some physical pains are telling us to go to the doctor and do a physical checkup.
Okay.
So the first thing is, if your body is feeling anxious, check in with your thoughts. What am I thinking that's causing this anxious feeling?
When you realize that and get to your thoughts and feelings, can you move forward then from that point?
Yes. What happens next is, once you've recognized that I'm thinking something that's causing me to feel this anxiety or feel overwhelmed, the next thing that you want to do is identify what the thought is. And again, the thoughts can be something like, I have so much on my plate, I'll never get this done. But they are usually thoughts that project fear into the future.
Okay.
Then the next step would be, once you've identified what you're thinking, then change what you're thinking.
How it's easier said than done. How do you change what you're thinking?
Well,
is it sort of positive reinforcement at that point?
Yes, it is. And it's interesting because the reason I'm giving these steps is, when we actually stop, listen to our body, identify what we're thinking, we make a shift already. Rather than being caught up in the emotion, we're now stepping back and looking at the cause of the emotion. And so it does make it easier when you do these steps to then be able to change the thought. It's hard just to say, I don't like how I'm thinking, and change the thought.
Sure.
But when you go through these steps, you've now stepped out of the emotion. And so it becomes a little bit easier. And so what I change my thought to is, everything gets done easily and effortlessly.
And you really start believing that.
Yes, and what happens is what we think about turns into how we behave, which turns into how we feel, and turns into our outcomes. So whatever is your dominant thought about anything in your life, it turns into a behavior. So when you start changing your thought, yes, you act upon it. So if I tell myself every day that everything gets done easily and effortlessly, it starts to happen.
I got to try this, because I could certainly use some getting things done every single day. Bonnie, thank you so much for sharing that advice and helping our viewers just finding time to relax. And of course, finding time to relax will hopefully help you finding that balance in your life.
Thank you,
right.
Tess.
Thank you so much. For more information, of course, on how to contact Bonnie or where to get a hold of her book, what is happening happiness and where can I get some? It's all on azfamily.com. Coming up next.